What if you have a team and the salaries are higher than usual because they've been there a long time? What does that mean for the deal? What if you have a team and the salaries are higher than usual because they've been there a long time? What does that mean for the deal?
Well, if it's a deal to a DSO, they want everybody there. I
Okay,
mean, they generally speaking. Now, having said that, it's still a positive to have people that are there a long time. So they really want to see how long has everybody been there. And yeah, there's going to be a few people overpaid.
yeah,
You work a lot with office managers, but the question is, are they figureheads or are they actually what they're doing? I
for
mean,
sure.
we see a lot of situations, and you know how it works with family, where you go in, you see the family on the payroll, and they're not there at all. I mean, they're
Right.
not even there, so that's a different story. But yeah, if they're a little overpaid, I don't think that's certainly not the end of the world, especially if the cash flow is still strong. So
Hmm.
if the EBITDA of the cash flow, once you make the adjustments, is still strong enough where the practice warrants a strong fair market value and the wages are a higher percentage than you normally would expect of collections, that still is a positive. And it's not like a DSO is going to come in and say, well, we're going to keep everybody. It's good that they've been there all these years, and we're just going to pay them 75% of what they were getting paid and expect them to stay because they know
Right.
that's not happening. So
Right.
they're going to
Right.
come aboard with, hey, your cash flow is still strong. You have a loyalty here with your staff, and we want them to stay. And so we're going to pay them the same or maybe even give them an opportunity. Maybe they get better benefits in some ways or whatever it is. But they're not looking to get rid of those people unless the people are dead weight.
Right. And that always shakes itself out, right? So
Oh,
they'll
yeah,
select themselves out of the office.
absolutely.
And so I've had a couple like distress calls of, "Oh, my boss just dropped the hammer, we're getting sold." And so what's the compensation package? Like, look at you. Now you got benefits. You didn't have benefits before. Now you've got CE allowance. You've been wanting to go to ADOM for years. Now you've got a
Right.
CE allowance. Like what can you do now? So there is silver lining, but it's not for everyone, but give it a shot. You kind of owe it to yourself to do that before you just jump ship.
Well,
Um,
yeah, everybody's heard horror stories, and I get that.
yeah,
And there are some circumstances where I think it's more. It's not necessarily the buyer or the DSO that's causing it. Look, we're creatures of habit. You know how it
mm-hmm,
works,
mm-hmm,
and we've talked about this a lot. I mean, you and I both do certain things every day that we're not gonna shake it. That's the way we do it.
sure,
But if someone's there for 20 years and now they get, oh my gosh, we're being bought out, they immediately think, okay, it's no different than bringing in a practice management consultant. Very often, the office manager and the assistants are freaking out because they think
right,
that, oh, they're gonna like show everything I'm doing wrong and they're gonna try to get me
yeah,
fired. So the immediate thing is they're gonna try to fire me, but it makes no sense. I mean, my first
yeah,
thing when I discuss this with people I'm working with these practices is why would a private equity owned DSO that is looking to build a group and increase their growth and everybody make more money, why would they come in and make wholesale changes? They're technically paying a premium for your practice to what? Start it all over? I mean,
right.
it
And they
makes
don't
no
want that.
sense.
Yeah, they don't want that. Well, you said family member. So I know, I work with a lot of dental spouses, and what I find is they don't get paid a lot. Like they actually don't seem to take a big salary, but that becomes a detriment, doesn't it? Like when you go to sell, like, so what happens when all of a sudden they start taking a salary, or do you advise that they should be getting paid, right, a competitive salary? But where do you see that? Have you seen that become an issue with the spouse not getting paid what they actually should be getting paid?
Yeah, I mean, and in some ways it's funny. A lot of dentists don't take a strong
Yeah,
salary either, but that's not going to affect them because they're not going to get a salary afterwards. They're going to
right,
get paid only on production. So the
right.
reality is that doesn't count there. But in your case here, yeah, it does count. I mean, if that person isn't the bona fide manager
Mhm.
and is working full time but taking a small salary because they own the practice and they don't want to kill it, so to
Right.
speak, or that's what their accountant told them they should do,
Mhm.
and they want to stay aboard. See, and that's the big if. If they do want to stay aboard, yeah, I mean, you have to take a look at this, and that means sometimes that maybe that has to change from your end before you're looking to sell, and maybe consider the fact that hey, I'm sticking around 3 5 years. Um, my wife or whatever is sticking around. She is the office manager. We're
Yeah,
underpaying her. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's true of all the expenses. I mean, if you own the real estate, you're very often underpaying yourself.
for sure.
Sometimes you're overpaying yourself. But you see, when you valuate, see, so when we valuate, we are going to address that right up front.
Mhm.
We are going to actually, so to answer the question the best way you can answer it, if we're evaluating, we're going to look at, let's say, rent, and we're going to say, okay, you're going to become now an employee to the DSO, but you're also going to be their landlord. So that's a little weird.
Yeah.
So because they're not buying the real estate. So you have to tell me what will you charge them right now. So I put that right into the valuation. Okay. And the same thing with this. Your spouse is getting paid 30 grand a year and she should be getting paid 70 grand or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, I've got to add that in right now. Like I've got to put it in so that we're showing that it's factored into the new cash flow. So if they look to analyze, they're going to say, "Oh, well, you have the wages increased by 40 grand," and I'm going to explain. I'm making a note on the valuation saying that's because Teresa is sticking around. She's being underpaid right now. We
Yeah.
factored that in, and look, even with factoring in the fact that she should be making more money and she wants to stay, and she's the heart and soul of the practice. Your
Mhm.
cash flow is still strong, and you should be
Yeah.
basing your offer already now factored into what she should be making.
Mhm.
So you
Along with
handle that right up front.
and there's a lot of goodwill when you have the spouse sticking on. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
lot
where the
there.
problem
So,
is, honestly, is when you have a
mhm.
dentist that is, you're not sure whether they're really burnt out yet or not, and
Yeah.
they want the money of selling to a DSO, but they may only have a year or two left, and they really aren't going to be really that attractive for the DSO, but they say they're going to stick around 5 years. And then you look at it, their spouse works the front, their daughter's the hygienist. So
Yeah.
they've got four family members working there, and you know what? When the dentist bolts, they're all going to bolt.
Of
So
course.
that's
Of
a
course.
really that's a red flag, big
That's a
time.
bad
Yeah.
situation. Yeah. Would you like to hear more? Follow the link for the full episode.